So if you want to know a lot of stuff, obey the word of wisdom. Yeah.
So the word of wisdom, there is. It talks not just about not drinking alcohol and smoking, but eating healthy. Our body is a temple.
Yes.
Why doesn't it say anything about brushing your teeth?
Well, it's a brush them or lose them off the deal, but yeah. Well, I don't know. I think people back then, I don't know, they had dentists, usually to pull a tooth. But yeah, I mean, it's just like today, the more you take care of your teeth, the longer you'll have them. But I kind of get the feeling that a lot of the saints had relatively good health and stuff because of these things. Their diet, for one, you know. You know what the diet was back in the 1800s or early, well, going back further than that? Mostly it was salt pork and whiskey is what most people lived on. I mean, not a very good diet. And constipation was one of the major factors that people dealt with back in those times. Probably because they hadn't figured out what caused it or what, I don't know, but so having a more well-rounded diet of vegetables and stuff and grains and some meat here and there, and you know, because he teaches, you know, that we're not vegetarians, we do eat meat. In fact, Christ, when he resurrected, the first thing he asked the apostles, do you have any meat? And so they fed him some meat, I think, and then they ate with him again out on the shore of Galilee, where they were out there, and then they saw him on the shore and as a resurrected being, and he had put together a little fire and was cooking some stuff up when they got there, and they ate with them. And so, yeah. Anyway, that's good stuff to know, you know. Joseph Smith made the comment, it's our knowledge that will save us.
Really?
Yeah. The more we know, the more is required of us. And the more that's required of us that we take on,
Yep.
that's where it is. And that's I think one of the biggest differences between us.
So more power, more responsibility. DNC 82.3.
Yeah,
I'll tell you.
Oh, good.
He who sins against the greater light shall receive greater condemnation.
Yes. Yep.
I read that in the Bednar book.
Yep, and we're supposed to gain knowledge. So the thing is,
Well, that makes me feel better because
it's like
I have a lot of knowledge.
Yes. And then it's what we do with that knowledge. Do we use it for good, or do we waste it? You know, it's like.
Yeah, there's a quote. A wise man once said, "If knowledge is not used for good, it's worse than worthless." Something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good for nothing.
It's worse than nothing.
Yeah. And so everyone has talents, and we're to use those talents. You know, like, I look at that one fellow that's been coming to church, Vincent. He sat with us, you know, and so he's had just a horrible, horrible life. Just people being mean to him and stuff, and just not a very fun time.
Yeah.
And he has some other ailments too that complicate things.
So it's true that the first will be last and last will be first?
Yep.
Or the last will be first, and many that are first will be last. So it's possible to be first.
Well, you know what that refers to?
What?
That's directly speaking to the Jews.
Oh.
It means that back in the earlier day, the gospel was first taken to the Jews. Remember, they were not allowed to preach to other people. You know, Christ told them to preach just to the Jewish people. And he also preached to the Samaritans. And but that was Christ. But he instructed his disciples to specifically preach to the Jews until Peter received the revelation to take it to the Gentiles. And so in that case, the Jews were first and the Gentiles came last. But right now, what we're in right now, this dispensation, we're in the times of the Gentiles. Because that's what we're taking it to the whole world.
What about what's going on with the second coming? When's Jesus coming back?
Don't know. All we can say is what he likes to say: soon. We don't know, but it's not hundreds and hundreds of years away. Very much
in my lifetime.
Very possibly. Things are kind
30% chance
winding up here. If you've taken note, there are lots of people in the land in charge who want to take away our free agency. Well, any person now in this country, they're couching it as, well, it'll keep you safe and secure and stuff and all this nonsense. It's like, when has anything been truly safe? I mean, getting in a car and driving on the freeway isn't terribly safe, especially in this day with people on their cell phones.
Have you ever texted and drove on going 60 miles an hour?
No.
Really?
Ever.
It's fun.
Oh, yeah. It's a near-death experience.
It's really fun.
But,
the Antichrist.
Mm-hmm.
When do you think he was coming? Was that Barack Obama?
No.
No,
there will be some that will come. And
what about the Mark of the Beast? What do you know about the Mark of the Beast?
That's a tough one, too, because there's so many things that, 30 years ago, we didn't know what cell phones were. We didn't know you could have not just a computer, but something that can reach out and with these apps do all these different things, you know? And it's just
like witchcraft.
Yeah, if you went back in time and you showed that to somebody, even without any satellite system to beam stuff to you, just the information that's on the phone, that can be programmed into it,
they'd kill you for witchcraft.
Plus the display and stuff, and people moving around in movies and stuff.
Yeah.
If back in 1975, if you showed somebody something like that, it'd blow their mind. Back then we could not even comprehend of such a thing,
Right.
And it's a really wonderful thing, but it's used a lot of the time. Satan, he'll take something that's inherently good and then look for the evil,
Counterfeit.
Yeah, and so, what can we use these for? Oh, we can use it for pornography. We can use it for a lot of things, for a lot of wicked uses, and it is.
It's just like weapons, guns.
Yeah.
Same.
But
idea.
the biggest problem, people communicate over it.
Do you think the good outweighs the bad, or does the bad outweigh the good?
I don't think that's really the question. It's just, how do we deal with it?
Okay.
We use it as a tool that it is, but then we warn our children and others of the dangers that you want to avoid.
Yeah.
And stuff. Because now...
Did you let your kids have phones?
Not for a long time.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah,
wow.
In high school, they kind of need... You can't really get by without one. They made sure of that. But, Yeah, by the time they were in school, then...
But like, would you, if you raised your kids today, would you give them smartphones at the age of like 10, 12?
No.
No. You give them a dumb phone?
Maybe a dumb phone.
Dumb phone?
Flip phone or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they can make phone calls. But the thing is, and it's just like, because you don't need this. But now, the way the schools are, they're making it so that you have to have a device. You know, because that's what they work through. You know, it's like your homework and stuff, your assignments and everything comes up on that kind of stuff. I know it's that way in college, sure. I mean, you know, it's like, well, even in the church, I get so much of my stuff is on my phone. You know, I mean, the emails, the Google Docs, all that kind of stuff that I get just for my calling. It's like... But yeah, you're asking some very interesting questions. What about Christ? Well...
What about Antichrist is what I said.
Well, I think we're going to see a number of those. I don't think there's going to be... It'll be a while before the guy. Because if you carefully read Revelations, it spells a lot out there. You know? There's a lot of... but we just don't... It's one of those things, I think you're going to know it when you see it. I remember our prophets way back in the 70s and stuff, they're talking about a smoke coming up out of the ground, you know? It's in Revelations. And it covered the whole earth. And I have to think they were talking about pornography and these smartphones.
Really?
Yeah, because smartphones have now made it a blanket deal. I mean, there's very, very few young people that have not dabbled with pornography. Very, very few. In fact, I haven't met one yet.
Emily Wilson.
Huh?
There's a girl.
Oh.
She's Catholic.
Yeah.
Just raised well, and you know.
Yeah. So what about this gal?
Emily Wilson?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, she's never seen porn at all. She's never come across it.
Good for her. Well, there are some, like mostly sisters or whatever. But yeah, it's so rampant. And it is. It's like a cloud covering the earth. Or smoke or whatever. But I mean, we couldn't comprehend something. I mean, back when I was a teenager, or even in college, man, you'd have to sneak a magazine or something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that was pretty much it, you know, I mean...
You know,
unless you're bold enough to
it kind of breaks my heart, but I was reading an article, you know, about BYU.
Yeah.
It's it's a church sponsored by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Mm-hmm.
And they basically have a no-sex policy. They have it on campus or whatever.
Well, not just on campus, period.
Yeah.
And the thing is, there's teachers and stuff there now that are pushing this stuff.
Pushing what?
All these things are not supposed to do, you know? And it's just like... And so President Holland's made 2 trips down there to the Marriott Center. It's, you know...
Yeah.
Everybody, this is not, you know... I need the student body here. And he probably had to do more than one because you got 30,000 students. And the Marriott Center will hold 10,000 people. And so... maybe it's more than that. 25,000? It's big. It's really big. But the kids at first thought he was joking. And he said, "I'm not laughing." This was President Holland.
Uh-huh.
He railed. He says, "This nonsense stops right now." Yeah. Talking about all this woke stuff and this thing with the gays and stuff like that. Yeah. He says, "You're welcome to come to school here, but you need to obey the standards." And they fired a few professors who were pushing for that stuff, you know, because a lot of kids are going there, like my my cousin, their two daughters went there, and they came back liberals. I mean, the whole, you know, woke thing and all that stuff, which is really a bunch of baloney. It's kind of like, remember the days of where we called it political correctness? Remember that, the term? They coined that back in the 80s. And we kind of thought it was a joke. It was just so stupid. You know what I mean? Political correctness. I mean, and we didn't realize